What if I told you that one of the most shocking betrayals in recent wrestling memory didn't just end a partnership, it redefined an entire championship reign and left the WWE Universe absolutely stunned? Picture this: Natalia, a third-generation superstar with wrestling royalty flowing through her veins, standing at ringside during what should have been the biggest moment of Maxim Dupris' career. The Intercontinental Championship is on the line. Becky Lynch, the man herself, is defending her title with everything she has. The crowd is deafening. The tension is unbearable. And then, in one earth-shattering moment, Natalia does the unthinkable. She doesn't just turn her back on Maxim Dupris. She actively, deliberately, brutally helps Becky Lynch retain the championship. The arena erupts. Social media explodes. And the wrestling world is left asking one question: why? Why would Natalia, someone who's built her entire career on honor and family legacy, commit such a devastating act of treachery? Well, buckle up, because what we're about to dive into is a story filled with ambition, jealousy, manipulation, and a twist that nobody saw coming. Let's rewind the clock just a bit, because to truly understand the magnitude of this betrayal, we need to understand how we got here. Maxim Dupris, formerly known as Max Dupris and before that as LA Knight's manager in NXT, had reinvented herself completely. After months of struggling to find her footing on the main roster, she finally caught fire. The WWE Universe started to rally behind her. Her charisma was undeniable. Her promos were sharp, cutting, and filled with the kind of confidence that makes stars. And most importantly, she had earned a shot at Becky Lynch's Intercontinental Championship, a title that Becky had been holding with an iron grip for nearly 6 months. Becky Lynch's Intercontinental Champion had been nothing short of spectacular. She brought prestige back to a title that some critics claimed had lost its luster. Every defense was a war. Every challenger left the ring knowing they'd been in a fight with one of the absolute best. But Becky had also become arrogant, cocky even. She walked around with this air of invincibility, constantly reminding everyone that she was the man, and that no woman on the roster could take what was hers. Week after week, she issued open challenges, and week after week, she turned back every single contender. Until Maxim Dupris stepped up. Now, Maxim didn't have the pedigree that some others had. She wasn't from a wrestling family. She didn't grow up in the business. But what she had was hunger, determination, and an unshakable belief that her time was now. The build-up to their championship match was electric. Maxim cut promos that gave you goosebumps. She talked about being overlooked, underestimated, counted out at every turn. She spoke about clawing her way up from the bottom, reinventing herself when everyone said she should quit. And the fans, they connected with that story. They saw themselves in her struggle. They wanted to see her succeed. But Maxim knew she couldn't do it alone. Becky Lynch was too experienced, too crafty, too dangerous. So Maxim did what any smart competitor would do. She sought out an ally, someone who understood the business, someone who had been in big match situations before, someone she could trust. Enter Natalia. The partnership made sense on paper. Natalia, the veteran, the daughter of Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the niece of Bret the Hitman Hart, agreeing to mentor and support this rising star. In backstage interviews, Natalia talked about seeing potential in Maxim, about wanting to help elevate the women's division, about passing the torch to the next generation. They trained together. They cut promos together. They even had a few tag team matches leading up to the big championship showdown, and they looked fantastic together. The chemistry seemed real. The respect seemed genuine. The WWE Universe bought into it completely. But here's where things get interesting, and here's where we need to talk about what was really going on beneath the surface. Because while Natalia was smiling for the cameras and playing the supportive mentor role, something darker was brewing. See, Natalia had been in WWE for over 15 years. She'd won championships, main event shows, earned the respect of her peers. But there was always this lingering feeling that she never quite got the recognition she deserved. She watched as other women with less experience, less pedigree, became the faces of the division. She watched as opportunities passed her by. And when Maxim Dupris started getting all this attention, all this momentum, all these opportunities, something inside Natalia began to twist. The jealousy was subtle at first. A quick glance when Maxim got a bigger pop from the crowd. A forced smile when Maxim cut a promo that trended on social media. A moment of hesitation before offering encouragement. But it was there, festering, growing, feeding off every cheer Maxim received, every headline she generated, every bit of success she achieved. And someone noticed. Someone saw the cracks forming in this partnership. Someone who stood to benefit from exploiting those cracks. Becky Lynch. Becky wasn't just a great wrestler. She was a master manipulator, a psychological warfare expert. She'd been in this business long enough to know that the easiest way to defeat your enemy wasn't always in the ring. Sometimes it was about getting inside their head, turning their strengths into weaknesses, their allies into enemies. So Becky started planting seeds. During promos, she'd casually mention how Maxine was getting all the spotlight while Natalia did all the work. She'd point out how Maxine was being positioned as the next big thing while Natalia was being used as a stepping stone. She'd question whether Natalia was okay with being remembered as someone who helped others succeed instead of succeeding herself. At first, Natalia brushed it off. She told Maxine not to listen to Becky's mind games. She reassured her that they were a team, that they were in this together. But those words Becky planted, they took root. They grew in the quiet moments, in the backstage areas, in the late nights when Natalia was alone with her thoughts. And Becky, she kept watering those seeds, kept feeding the doubt, kept pushing until finally, she made Natalia an offer that would change everything. The details of that conversation, the actual meeting between Becky and Natalia, that's something that came out weeks later through various sources, through insider reports, through cryptic social media posts. But the essence of it was this: Becky offered Natalia something she'd been craving for years: validation, respect, and most importantly, opportunity. Becky promised Natalia that if she helped her retain the Intercontinental Championship, if she made sure Maxine didn't walk out as the new champion, then Becky would put Natalia in position for a title shot of her own. She'd endorse her, elevate her, give her the platform she'd been denied for so long. All Natalia had to do was betray Maxim Dupris at the most crucial moment of her career. Now, we arrive at the night of the championship match. The anticipation was incredible. The arena was packed. The energy was off the charts. Social media was buzzing with predictions, with excitement, with genuine uncertainty about who would walk out as champion. Maxim Dupris made her entrance first, and the ovation she received was deafening. You could see the emotion on her face, the realization that she'd connected with these fans, that they believed in her. And then came Natalia, walking out with Maxine, standing by her side, playing the role of the supportive mentor one last time. The commentators talked about their bond, about how this partnership had elevated both women, about how having Natalia in her corner gave Maxine the best possible chance to win. Then Becky Lynch's music hit. The boos rained down. The Intercontinental Championship gleamed around her waist as she strutted to the ring with that trademark swagger, that cocky smirk that said she knew something everyone else didn't. She posed with the title, holding it high, daring Maxine to try and take it from her. The stare down between Becky and Maxine was intense, the kind of moment that gives you chills, where you can feel the stakes, where you know something special is about to happen. The bell rang, and they went to war. This wasn't a wrestling match. This was a battle for legacy, for validation, for the future. Maxine came out aggressive, taking the fight to Becky, using her power and athleticism to control the early portions of the match. Becky tried to slow things down, use her technical expertise, her experience, but Maxine was relentless. The crowd was firmly behind the challenger, chanting her name, willing her to victory. Every near fall had the arena on the edge of their seats. Every reversal, every counter, every high-impact move built the drama to almost unbearable levels. About 15 minutes into the match, Maxine had Becky in serious trouble. She'd hit a devastating spine buster that left Becky writhing in pain. The commentators were losing their minds, talking about how close Maxine was to achieving her dream. She climbed to the top rope, looking to hit her finishing move, the one that had put away so many opponents before. The crowd rose to their feet. Natalia was on the apron, shouting encouragement, playing her part perfectly. This was it. The moment. The crowning achievement of Maxim Dupris' career. And then Natalia grabbed Maxine's ankle. It was so quick, so subtle, that half the arena didn't even see it at first. Just a hand reaching up, fingers wrapping around Maxine's ankle, a gentle tug that threw off her balance for just a split second. But that split second was all Becky Lynch needed. She recovered, she scrambled to her feet, she climbed up to meet Maxine on the top rope, and she hit a devastating superplex that shook the entire ring. Both women were down. The referee started counting. The crowd was in shock, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Becky draped an arm over Maxine. 1, 2. Maxine kicked out, and the arena exploded with relief. But something was wrong. Maxine was looking at Natalia, confusion and hurt written all over her face. Did Natalia really just grab her ankle, or was it an accident? Was she trying to help and mistimed it? Natalia was playing it perfectly, hands up, shaking her head, mouthing, "I'm sorry, it was an accident." Maxine wanted to believe her. She needed to believe her. She turned her focus back to Becky, back to winning this championship. The match continued, both women exhausted, both running on pure adrenaline and willpower. Maxine fought back, digging deep, finding reserves of strength she didn't know she had. She hit her combination strikes, building momentum, feeding off the energy of the crowd. She had Becky reeling, backing into the corner, nowhere to go. Maxine charged in for her signature running knee strike, the move that had become her trademark, the move that the commentators called unstoppable. But Becky moved. At the last possible second, she slipped out of the corner, and Maxine's knee crashed into the turnbuckle. She stumbled backward, clutching her leg, the pain evident. And that's when Natalia struck again. This time there was no subtlety, no pretense of accident. Natalia reached into the ring, grabbed Becky's hand, and pulled her out of the way as Maxine turned around. Then, as Maxine stood there, vulnerable, confused, betrayed, Natalia looked her right in the eyes and mouthed two words, "I'm sorry." Natalia grabbed Maxine's leg and yanked it out from under her, causing her to fall face first to the mat. The referee was distracted on the other side of the ring. He didn't see it. But the cameras caught everything. The crowd saw everything. The boos were immediate and thunderous, a wave of hatred and disappointment crashing down on Natalia. She backed away from the ring, her face showing no remorse, no regret, just cold calculation. Becky Lynch, ever the opportunist, capitalized immediately. She grabbed Maxine, who was still disoriented from the fall, still processing the betrayal, still unable to comprehend what her mentor, her partner, her friend had just done to her. Becky locked in the disarm her devastating submission hold, right in the center of the ring. Maxine fought it. She clawed toward the ropes. She refused to tap. The crowd chanted her name, begging her to hold on, to not give up. But the damage was done. The combination of the superplex, the knee to the turnbuckle, and now this submission hold, it was too much. Maxine's hand hovered over the mat, trembling, fighting against the inevitable. And then, with tears streaming down her face, she tapped out. The bell rang. Becky's music hit. The arena filled with boos so loud they drowned out everything else. Becky Lynch stood up, exhausted but victorious, and the referee handed her the Intercontinental Championship. She held it high, that smirk returning to her face, looking directly at Natalia, who stood at the top of the ramp watching. And then, in a moment that sent chills down everyone's spine, Becky nodded at Natalia. A simple nod of acknowledgement, of appreciation, of conspiracy. And Natalia nodded back. The entire story, the entire betrayal, it all became crystal clear in that one exchange. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment decision. This wasn't an accident. This was planned, calculated, orchestrated. Natalia had sold out Maxim Dupris, had destroyed her championship dreams, had shattered their partnership, all for the promise of future opportunity from Becky Lynch. Maxine lay in the ring, devastated, tears mixing with sweat as she processed what had just happened to her. The commentators were beside themselves, trying to make sense of the betrayal, expressing the outrage that every fan was feeling. Social media immediately exploded. The hashtag Natalia betrays Maxine trend worldwide within minutes. Fans were posting their reactions, their anger, their heartbreak. Wrestling analysts were already booking their spots on podcasts to discuss this shocking turn of events. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was massive. Maxim Dupris cut some of the most emotional, raw promos of her career, talking about the pain of betrayal, about trusting someone who she thought had her best interests at heart, about having her dreams crushed by someone she considered family. The vulnerability she showed, the genuine hurt in her voice, it connected with the audience on a level that most wrestling storylines never reach. People weren't just watching a wrestling angle. They were watching someone process real betrayal, real heartbreak, and it was powerful. Natalia, for her part, leaned fully into her new role. She aligned herself with Becky Lynch publicly, forming one of the most hated duos in the women's division. In her promos, Natalia justified her actions by saying that she was tired of being overlooked, tired of helping others achieve glory while she remained in the background. She said that Maxine represented everything wrong with the modern era of wrestling, all flash and no substance, all hype and no heritage. She claimed that by aligning with Becky, she was ensuring that real wrestling, real championship pedigree, would be protected and elevated. the WWE Universe wasn't having it. Every arena Natalia walked into, she was met with deafening boos. Her social media comments were flooded with fans calling her out, expressing their disappointment, demanding that Maxine get her revenge. And that's exactly what WWE gave them. A rematch was set, but this time it was different. This time it was Maxim Dupris versus Natalia in a no disqualification match. The stipulation? The winner would become the #1 contender for Becky Lynch's Intercontinental Championship. That match was absolutely brutal. Maxine unleashed all of her pent-up rage, all of her frustration, all of her pain onto Natalia. She used chairs, she used tables, she made Natalia feel every bit of the anguish she'd caused. The match went nearly 25 minutes, and when it was over, when Maxine stood victorious after putting Natalia through a table with her finishing move, the ovation was incredible. The redemption arc had begun. Maxine had earned her shot at Becky Lynch, and this time, there would be no mentor to betray her, no partner to sabotage her dreams. It would be just her, Becky, and the Intercontinental Championship. But here's the beautiful thing about this entire story, the reason it resonated so deeply with the WWE Universe. It wasn't just about a title. It wasn't just about wins and losses. It was about trust, about ambition, about the sacrifices people make and the lines they're willing to cross to achieve their goals. Natalia's betrayal of Maxim Dupris wasn't just a wrestling angle. It was a reflection of real human emotions, real human motivations, the kind of complex storytelling that reminds us why we love this business so much. The championships will change hands. The rivalries will evolve. New storylines will emerge. But this moment, this earth-shattering betrayal, the image of Natalia grabbing Maxine's ankle and destroying her championship dreams to help Becky Lynch retain, that's the kind of moment that defines careers, that creates legendary feuds, that fans will remember and talk about for years to come. And as we look forward to what's next for all three of these incredible performers, as we anticipate the eventual showdown between Maxine and Becky, as we wonder whether Natalia's alliance with the man will actually lead to the opportunity she was promised or if she'll find herself betrayed in turn, one thing is absolutely certain. The women's division has never been more compelling, more dramatic, more must-see television than it is right now. So to everyone who's been following this story, to everyone who felt the shock of that betrayal, to everyone who's invested in Maxine's journey from overlooked competitor to legitimate championship contender, keep watching, keep supporting, keep believing. Because if this story has taught us anything, it's that in the world of professional wrestling, anything can happen, anyone can turn, and the most devastating moments often lead to the most triumphant victories. Maxim Dupris' story is far from over. In fact, it feels like it's only just beginning. And when she finally gets her hands on that Intercontinental Championship, when she proves that betrayal and sabotage couldn't stop her dreams, when she stands tall with that title held high above her head, it's going to be one of the most satisfying moments in recent wrestling history. If this story gave you the same chills it gave me, if you were as shocked by Natalia's betrayal as the rest of the WWE Universe, let me know in the comments below. Tell me your thoughts on this entire saga. Tell me if you think Maxine will eventually capture that Intercontinental Championship. Tell me whether you believe Natalia made the right decision or if she'll come to regret selling out for a promise that may never be fulfilled. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most dramatic storylines in recent memory, make sure you're subscribed to WWE Sphere so you never miss our coverage of all the shocking moments, the incredible matches, and the compelling stories that make professional wrestling the greatest form of entertainment on the planet. Until next time, keep watching, keep believing, and remember that in this business, the biggest betrayals often lead to the sweetest redemption.